Do you guys remember a couple of weeks back when we got renders of the upcoming Pixel 10 series of devices? And there was one really big surprise in those renders. If you somehow missed that, here's a render of the Pixel 10. And you may look at this and you may say, Shane, clearly that's the Pixel 10 Pro. That has 1, 2, 3 cameras. I see a periscope telephoto zoom lens there, but you would be wrong. That is apparently the Pixel 10 base model. Once OnLeaks confirmed that was not an error, that is indeed the base model, there was a ton of speculation. What might this mean? Because for the entire time, basically, you had the base model with a primary and an ultra-wide, and then you had the Pro models with a primary and ultra-wide and a telephoto. That is how they differentiated between these different models. And I had made some content talking about this leak and speculated about what this might mean. Maybe it would be a lower zoom. Maybe instead of 5x, it would be 3x. Maybe it would be a lower end sensor. One of the things I threw out was maybe it would be the sensor from the Pixel 10 or Pixel 9 Pro Fold. And we're going to talk about that here in a minute because it turns out I was pretty much dead on the money with this. We have information coming from Android Authority, but I'm going to, of course, be reading off of shanecraig.tech. And yeah, this is pretty crazy. So here's the Pixel 10 camera specifications and the Pixel 10 Pro XL, and we'll talk about the Pixel 10 Pro Fold as well. But starting with the base model, Pixel 10, 50 megapixel, Samsung GN8. The sensor is 1 over 1.95 inches, and that is a different sensor than they used in the past. Not only is it a different sensor, it is a downgraded sensor. It is a smaller, physically smaller sensor than the GNV that they used last time. It's quite a bit smaller. The ultra-wide is a Sony IMX712. This is 1 over 3.1 inches. And again, this is going to be a downgraded sensor from last year. Here's the telephoto, an 11 megapixel Samsung 3J1. It's 1 over 3 inches, and I assume it's going to be a 5x optical zoom because it is the exact same sensor from the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, as I sort of speculated in that earlier content. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It does mean that it's worse than the Pro model, but it should still be pretty decent. Selfie sensor is the same sensor as that telephoto. Let's look at the Pro models, though. They're keeping that GNV sensor 1 over 3.1 inches, which is quite a bit larger than the Pixel 10's sensor. Now, where they used to always be the same, now it's not that the Pros got better, it's that the base model got worse, and that is going to always rub people the wrong way. Okay, you can upgrade the Pro beyond the base, but downgrading the base year over year, not so sure about that one. Sony IMX 858 is being used across the board for the other sensors, ultra-wide, telephoto, and selfie. And you can see for yourself, 1 over 2.55 inches is a larger sensor than any of these other sensors. Basically, what we have here is the Pixel 9a camera setup. It's the same primary as the 9a, it's the same ultra-wide as the 9a, and it's the telephoto from the 9 Pro Fold. Now, this doesn't mean that the Pixel 10, the base model, is going to just have a bad camera, right? This is always a combination of camera hardware and software processing, and Google's processing is as good as anyone's on the market. If you remember, when we went from the original Pixel Fold to the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, a lot of the camera hardware seemed like it was being downgraded, like this. It was being shrunk down. And so there was a lot of speculation. Man, this thing might have worse camera performance. But somehow, as you maybe saw in my camera coverage, comparing the Pixel Fold and the 9 Pro Fold, the 9 Pro Fold's camera performance is noticeably better than the original Pixel Folds because the software processing got better. Google may be able to pull off that again, although I do have to admit to you, I am more than a little bit concerned to see, again, downgrades almost across the board, just in the name of adding that 5x telephoto, which is a pretty good 5x telephoto. This is going to rub people the wrong way. But now let's pivot to the 10 Pro Fold, and I'll just quickly tell you, everything is staying the same except for that primary sensor. We're swapping from last year's IMX 787 to this Samsung GN8. Now, it's a little bit complicated here. as you can see written down here. Some listings have that IMX 787 for the 9 Pro Fold sitting at 1/2 inches. Some have it at 1/1.7 inches. Android Authority says the new sensor is 1/9.5 inches, but cropping is probably taking place on this device. Size constraints, right? So they're sort of cropping in. So the exact dimensions are hard to pin down. My assumption would be this is going to be a lateral move. You're not going to see any real problems here. And with further improved processing, you might actually see an improvement again with similar, same as, or maybe even less than hardware. Keep in mind, Tensor G5, new processor. They're doing a lot of new stuff with the processing of their photos with this new processor. So it may end up being okay. I'll throw this table on screen for you to kind of be looking at as we wrap this thing up. This is a complicated situation, and like I've said, I do think that this is going to rub people the wrong way. Even if at the end of the day the camera performance ends up being okay, I do think that this is a little bit risky, and there may be reasons for it. This may be a cost-cutting type thing, right? But I think it's going to be very, very hard to compel people when they're looking at buying a Pixel device and they're looking at the 9A and they're looking at the 10 and they have the same primary, the same ultra wide, and the 10 has a telephoto, and that's great, but is that worth a $300 from $499 for the 9A to $799 for the 10? Is it worth that for a telephoto? I don't think that it possibly can be, and I don't think Google is that dumb either. They have to have other things, other tricks up their sleeve to make that make sense, and I think it's going to have to be software because the processor is going to basically be the same as well. Maybe there's going to be more RAM on the 10 versus the 9A, and maybe that's going to be used for LLM stuff. I think that that is pretty obviously what's going to happen. Pixel Sense and things like that. That's how they're going to differentiate, is with the software. But we're talking about things that rub people the wrong way. You've got two phones that have very similar hardware. One gets different software, and their only excuse is, well, it's got a little bit more RAM, and that's why. And that's a $300 difference, a bit more RAM, and a decent, good enough telephoto camera. Ugh. I just don't like this strategy. I don't appreciate it, Google. I just don't think that this is a good look for you. Maybe it's going to turn out great. I want to hear from you guys, though. How do you feel about this? Do you feel similarly? Does this kind of give you a little bit of an ick feeling? Does this feel like maybe they're playing a little bit too fast and loose with these specifications? Let me know in the comments down below. Do definitely check out the article on shanecraig.tech, and you can also check out via the link in the article, the original article from Android Authority, the great Camilla Wojciechowska. If I'm pronouncing that even remotely correctly, I'll give myself a great big pat on the back. They do fantastic work, so do go give them a click. Turn off your ad blocker so that the ads will display, and give them a little bit of currency that way, because they absolutely do deserve that. Guys, thanks for watching. Subscribe for more content just like this, and until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.